The members of this kingdom that we are most familiar with are the fungi that grow on the sides of old dead trees, and mushrooms. Unlike protists and monerians, fungi are formed from many different cells. Fungi cannot make food by photosynthesis, so they must spend their whole lives embedded in their food supplies. Even mushrooms are embedded in the earth and have a huge underground network of threads by which they take in nutrients. Scientists have recently discovered a single fungus whose thread network covers nearly 30 acres and weighs over 100 tons, making it one of the world's largest living things. Fungi also make up an important part of the driest living things on Earth, the lichens. The lichens we see here are algae living together with fungi in a way that is helpful to each. The algae part of the lichen creates food for the fungi part, and the fungi part of the lichen helps keep the algae part alive by preventing it from drying out. Of all living things, plants are probably the most important to humans. Like fungi, plants are complicated organisms made from many cells. Plants, just like certain monerians and protists, can trap the energy of the sunlight and convert it into food, and into oxygen for us to breathe by photosynthesis. The fact that true plants do not have to search for food causes them to spend their entire lives pretty much in one spot. But plants do move their bodies so they can capture the most sunlight. This movement just happens so slowly we can't see it. Like plants and fungi, true animals are complicated creatures made from many cells. Animals like fungi and certain monerians and protists cannot carry out photosynthesis. Instead, they must take in food to survive. Because they must find food, they are much more active than plants. And the variety of body types and feeding styles found in the animal kingdom is truly unbelievable. Beyond the kingdom level of classification, living things are also classified into many smaller subgroups. To help understand the basics of this subgroup classification, let us look closely at one creature, the fox squirrel, and learn step by step how it is classified. First and most obviously, it is a member of the animal kingdom just like monkeys, worms, bees, jellyfish, and slugs. The following step in classification is to place the squirrel into a second large division or phylum. Squirrels, just like birds, frogs, fish, and many other animals, have a backbone. That is, they are vertebrates. This phylum of vertebrate animals is given the name Chordata. Of all vertebrate animals, only one class, the mammals, have bodies covered with hair and nurse their young with milk. Squirrels, gorillas, and javelinas are all mammals. But out of all the mammals, only those belonging to the order of rodents have very long, sharp front teeth. Squirrels, prairie dogs, and mice are all rodents. Out of the entire group of rodents, only a few, like the squirrels and chipmunks, have bushy tails. Because of this, they are placed in a separate family called the shade-tails, because when they curl up their tails, their bodies can be shaded. However, only some of these bushy-tailed rodents climb trees. They are classified as members of the squirrel genus. And finally, of all the many kinds of squirrels, only the fox squirrel has reddish-brown fur on its back and yellowish-brown fur on its belly. When biologists talk about this variety of squirrel, they use both its genus and species name, Sciurus niger, which is just like using a person's last and first names. Translated from Greek and Latin into English, the fox squirrel's name means dark-colored shade tail. Biologists will use an organism's scientific name no matter which language they are speaking. This kind of naming helps get rid of a lot of confusion that happens when common names for living things are used. And by using classification principles, our understanding of how different kinds of organisms are related to one another is greatly improved. All living things can be classified into one of the 5 kingdoms we have just seen. And almost all living things can be classified further into a definite phylum or division, class, order, family, and can be given scientific genus and species names. By classifying living things into separate groups, scientists have been able to discover a natural pattern of how they are organized, going from simple to complicated. This natural order reflects how life developed on Earth. First, the waters of our planet, filled with simple single-celled creatures without a nucleus, like today's Monarans. Later, in the history of life on Earth, came the one-celled creatures, like the protists, that had a nucleus and were capable of more complicated activities than the Monarans. Then came the many-celled creatures, the animals, plants, and fungi, and each followed its own special path of change, becoming increasingly more complicated over time. As some began to inhabit the Earth's surface, filling it with sometimes strange, but often beautiful living things. Classification continues to play an important role in understanding the richness and beauty of the life that surrounds us, and has helped us as human beings to appreciate our place in the great natural order of living things.